is exactly the position that we find ourselves in. Hold the line. None of us want to shut down the government.
We don't know what's happening to them on the way. Yeah. This is a humanitarian crisis. We walk through the centers today, Jake. It would make the average American citizen cry to see what's happening here, and it must stop.
Right, which is why some people are saying, why not pass the $14 billion supplemental bill that President Biden has put before you to at least try to help with some of these issues?
That won't solve. That won't solve any of the problems I just articulated.
Right,
that won't do a darn thing.
Well, I'm sure the people in the Border Patrol agents that you're with think it might do something, at least in terms of making their job a little easier for the next month or so.
No, actually they don't.
They don't want the $14 billion?
Jake, the president should come to the border. What an idea that would be. He should talk to the Border Patrol agents who are down here.
I think he went last year.
Oh, that's gonna hurt! So let's get this straight for everyone. You want to complain about the border to the extent in which you'll force a government shutdown, but you don't want to pass any bills to actually help with the problem at hand. You know, the worst kept secret in Washington is that Republicans have no real interest in solving any problems at the border, because then what will they campaign on? Being anti-Taylor Swift?
She's been on social media a lot, and now you're thinking, okay, so we all have to register to vote. We're all suddenly Democrats.
At one point, she yells the F-bomb. I don't know if I could do that in front of my husband's mom.
I don't really care. She's going to dump him anyway.
This is going to be a bad thing for the chief.
The question is, what will break his heart first? His new relationship with Taylor Swift or the COVID shot?
I think the commissioner set this up.
They simply like complaining about issues with no real solution, because the solution isn't as useful to them.
We represent over half the U.S. states because every state in America is now a border state. And we've seen that on vivid display today. Today we were able to meet with local residents, with sheriffs, with the Texas DPS. We also toured the CBP processing facility here in Eagle Pass, and it's been an eye-opener. One thing is absolutely clear. America is at a breaking point with record levels of illegal immigration. And today, we got a first-hand look at the damage and the chaos the border catastrophe is causing in all of our communities. The situation here and across the country is truly unconscionable. We would describe it as both heartbreaking and infuriating. Our communities are overrun. We have local resources that are being strapped. We have lethal drugs that are pouring into our country at record levels. And it's in less than 3 years that President Biden took office that this has happened.
Republican Speaker 10th time of asking Mike Johnson went on CNN today to face off with Jake Tapper, and after about 5 minutes, you could tell by the look on his face, he realized this wasn't going to be his usual Fox News fiesta where any conspiracy theory goes just as long as God told you to say it. Tapper on several occasions did what in an ideal world most journalists would do: push back on every single falsity.
Most people believe it may be twice that high. We have nearly 2 million gotaways that we know about, not to mention those who evaded capture. Over 300 known terrorists apprehended at the border trying to come in. We don't know how many evaded capture and detection. They're in the country, potentially setting up terrorist cells everywhere. Fentanyl is the #1 cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 49, flowing over the border like an open sewer. Human trafficking is the #1 business of the cartels here. Estimated, we were told today, Jake, one of the local sheriffs here, said that they believe that the cartels are making $32 million a week on trafficking human beings into the U.S. That's over $1.5 billion a year. Transnational criminal organizations, and the Biden administration seems to care nothing about it. Remember, they could issue executive orders and fix this overnight. You could reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. You could stop the catch and release policy that the Biden administration insists upon. You could do some very important things, but they refuse to do it.
So just one note on the terrorist thing. There aren't hundreds of known terrorists getting into the country. There are people whose identity have been flagged on a certain database. I just don't want people out there thinking that 200 members of Hamas have flown into the country and we don't even know about it.
We don't know what's happening to them on the way. Yeah. This is a humanitarian crisis. We walk through the centers today, Jake. It would make the average American citizen cry to see what's happening here, and it must stop.
Right, which is why some people are saying, why not pass the $14 billion supplemental bill that President Biden has put before you to at least try to help with some of these issues.
That won't solve. That won't solve any of the problems I just articulated.
Right,
that won't do a darn thing.
Well, I'm sure the people in the Border Patrol agents that you're with think it might do something, at least in terms of making their job a little easier for the next month or so.
No, actually they don't.
They don't want the $14 billion?
No. I just quoted to you the deputy chief of the U.S. Border Patrol, and he said he doesn't need more buckets. In other words, he doesn't need more personnel to handle the flow. He needs to turn the flow off. That's what we're talking about. This is not about sending more money down here. It's about changing the policy, and the White House seems not to understand that.
Yeah, but I mean, even President Trump couldn't turn the faucet off, right? I mean, I understand your point that he did more than Biden did.
He turned the flow down.
Yeah, but it's not. It's the presidency. It's not a magician.
What this interview goes to prove is that MAGA Republicans just don't want real-world solutions to questions about border policy. They just want another public problem to relentlessly demagogue and make false promises on. Up until election time comes, then if it fails, they'll be on to their next migrant caravan.
It can come to an end if the Biden administration will do its job, and they've refused to do it. They're doing the opposite.
So the $14 billion, there are, you're right, 1,600 asylum officers that would be part of that to speed up processing of asylum claims. That's what you're talking about. But there also would be 1,300 more Border Patrol agents to work alongside the 20,200. And also funding to hire 1,000 Custom and Border Protection officers with a focus on counter fentanyl. So it's not all, in fact, most of it is not related to processing asylum seekers. A lot of it has to do with what you're talking about.
Jake, the president should come to the border. What an idea that would be. He should talk to the Border Patrol agents who are down here.
I think he went last year, just FYI.
One of my favorite clips last year, which I've played many a times, was when Pete Buttigieg spoke on this very matter. How Republicans failed to offer any solution to the issues that they relentlessly complain about, because as long as they just focus on the problem, they deflect attention away from their inability to propose any solution to help fix it.
You know, I get if you're after attention. It's one thing to call attention to a problem. When you have a course of action, as some of the folks here speaking up about an issue, exercising their First Amendment rights have done, or in elected office. It's another to just call attention to a problem because the problem is actually more useful to you than the solution, and that helps you call attention to yourself. And that's what's going on. And the problem, of course, it's one thing if that was just people being obnoxious, but human beings are being impacted by that. You flee a communist regime in Venezuela, you come here, and then somebody tricks you, somebody using Florida taxpayer money for some reason, tricks you into going from Texas to Massachusetts. It's not just ineffectual. It is hurting people. Obviously, there are issues with the border and with migration. But these are the kinds of stunts you see from people who don't have a solution. Where have these leaked? Governor DeSantis was in Congress. Where was he when they were debating immigration reform? What have any of these people done to be part of the solution?
Instead, when they're not turning life-saving devices in the Rio Grande into their own Squid Games.
Right here in Texas, Governor Abbott has heroically done more to enforce the law than the president has. And how has this administration responded? They have sued the state of Texas to stop their deterrence efforts. They have brought them to court to strike down their ability to put up buoys in the water and razor wire and the rest. It's absolute insanity.
They're playing politics with innocent lives, shipping migrants back and forth as pawns to help in a game of Twitter gotcha.
The President of the United States put a $14 billion package in front of Congress they can act on today.
And what would that?
They haven't done anything in 2 years,
do?
this Congress.
What do you
Literally
support?
not a single piece
you support
of
a border wall?
legislation. I support the $14 billion package President's put forward. That includes 2,300 border agents and customs officials. By the way, also includes $850 million in new technology for border security. You hear nothing from Ron DeSantis. You hear nothing, Sean, respectfully. You hear nothing from the Republican Party. They play politics.
I'm almost out of time.
The President put the plan up to address the anxiety around
Let me ask the question another way. Does it worry you that our top geopolitical foes, the number one state sponsor of terror, Iran, China, Russia, Afghanistan, Syria, that they're at our southern border? You're a border state governor. Does that concern you at all? The
why else would I have put the answer is yes. Why else would I put the National Guard? Why would I have just increased it by 50% on the largest port in the Western Hemisphere in my state?
It's disgusting. It's abhorrent, but it's the GOP.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.